think about it. You don't see locomotive engines anymore that are powered by fire and coal, right? And wood, because diesel engines came in. This is what's gonna happen. Some of these things are gonna disappear, and if we're not gonna catch up, if we're not gonna go and say, okay, we need to learn how to use these tools and maintain these tools and work with these tools, we're gonna stay behind.
Before we start the show, I have a quick question for you. Is your resume stuck in the rejection pile? At Resume Assassin, I create powerful resumes that showcase your skills, experience, and achievements, getting you noticed by recruiters. I'll also optimize your LinkedIn profile, transforming it into a magnet for opportunity. Visit resumeassassin.com today and take charge of your job search. Visit resumeassassin.com. Ron Sharon, welcome to Recruiting Insider.
Thank you very much, Mary. Glad to be here.
I'm excited to have you. You know, Ron has over 2 decades of experience in technology and cybersecurity, and he's recognized by LinkedIn as a top voice. And he has one very profound mission that I can really resonate with, and that's to, empower and elevate professionals. Specifically, it sounds like you work with a lot of cybersecurity professionals and those in the tech space in general. And Ron, I really, I love the fact that you believe that every leader has the potential to grow and to truly achieve great things, and I also saw on your LinkedIn profile, and I just love the idea of, tossing out the concept of thinking outside of the box completely, and maybe thinking more of, how can I create limitless opportunities and really innovative ways of thinking? So I really love that. And I truly was inspired by your profile and everything that you stand for. So today, we're really going to talk about how innovation changes the workplace, how AI specifically is replacing artists, writers, programmers. I mean, lots of different jobs, really. And what someone needs to do today to get a job, really, in some of these evolutionary times. But yeah, before we dig into the topic too deep, Ron, I'd love to just, have you tell us just a little bit more about who you are.
Yeah, perfect. My name, like you said, my name is Ron. Been in the biz, we call it 20, I think we're over almost 21 years now. Started out, like always, somebody needed help with some computer system, and I said, hey, I can do it.
Yeah.
And then they said, hey, how about, be the IT manager of my company, and that's exactly what I did. Like, I don't know anything about computers. I never studied computers, by the way. Never studied computers.
Wow.
And I said, I'm good with computers. I guess I can do it. And that's how I got into the IT side of the business, right? So I just started learning. Everything was in its infancy then, right? Google, I think, just started, so not a lot of things. So you had to go through forums and find videos and find other things to teach you about things like Microsoft Server. How to use Microsoft Server. What is Microsoft Server? Like how to install a Microsoft Server 20, what was it, back 2000 on this Dell Optiplex server. And I'm like, okay, I guess I'm learning all of this now. Like, I'm good with computers, but I never really went into how to do professional stuff. So I learned by doing, and I learned by being an IT manager for a company of like about 70 people, I think they were back then. And then I gathered enough knowledge, and then I moved on to be a part of a service company that serviced big big clients in Los Angeles, where I lived, like the area where I lived for 12 years. They serviced Mercedes-Benz. I was lucky enough to be a part of the team that supported the LA Clippers. So went into Staples Center back then. They were in Staples Center, watched the games. We were their entire IT teams, and we had to be there doing every game, and they gave us 2 free tickets. Back then, it was awesome. So sat down, watched the basketball games. I had a staff badge for the Clippers, went down, fixed some of the players' laptops. Awesome, great experience.
Sweet.
And just then continued on. And in one of my jobs, my boss said to me, hey, Ron, we need to do something with this cybersecurity stuff. And I said, well, I think I can do it. And he said, you do it. And that was that. And that's how I got into cybersecurity. Kind of the same thing. Somebody needs to take care of this stuff. And I'm like, I'll do it. Okay, not a problem. So got into cybersecurity, studied all I can get with cybersecurity, got certifications. Some of them expired, got into really heavily on the integration between cybersecurity and IT, which is two different things.
Hmm.
Learned them both really well, excelled, moved on to be a director of cybersecurity and IT in a startup in Denver, was a VP of cybersecurity and a registered investment advisor, and I was a SVP of IT and cybersecurity in a company that offered services, cybersecurity services for large and medium-sized companies. All of that, and I have like all that experience, and just by, teaching myself, and that's how I came up, by the way, with let's throw away the box
Hmm.
because somebody wants there's this saying that you draw a box on a chalkboard and you tell people to put their name in there, right? And you draw it purposefully, you draw it big so that all of them will put it inside that box that you draw. And then you said, hey, you need to think outside the box. Why didn't you put your name outside of this box? And they're like, oh, that's right. And I'm like, wait a minute. Why are you confining yourself to
Yeah.
put your name next to the box? If you think like that, everybody's just gonna have a constraint, right? You just have a box. I need to put my name outside of this box, but the box exists. And that's why I thought about, okay, you know what? There is no box. Push your name wherever you want. And that's how you can do better things. That's how you can get better things. If you break those chains of the box and break the thoughts that limit what you think you can do it.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. I, like I said, I really resonate with that. And I feel like it's, a lot of that too is in your mindset. And I know that we hear that everywhere and it almost seems cliche now, but it's true. Like change your mindset, don't just think outside of the box, completely change your mindset. And really the opportunities are limitless in what you can achieve. There's so many different ways that you can innovate. You don't need to just put your name right outside of the box. You can go 100 million miles away
100
from
million
that
miles
box.
outside
Yeah.
that box
Yeah,
and put
for
your name
sure.
there.
For
And that's
sure.
how you succeed, right? Putting your name 100 miles next
Exactly.
to the box because many people put it in the box, some people put outside the box, but you're there doing your own thing on the top.
Yeah. So let's start with this idea of innovation and, how it's really changing the workplace because I do feel like that term innovation kind of gets thrown around a lot lately. But I
It's
mean,
becoming a
really,
marketing word. That's
it
the
is. It,
biggest
it
issue,
has
right?
become a marketing word. So I guess to kind of start, can you talk to us a little bit about what is innovation outside of just kind of that marketing word that we hear, tossed around?
So yeah, innovation, we need to look at what AI is doing right now. Some call it AI, some call it machine learning. It's machine learning AI. Agree to disagree on the exact terminology, but when we say it, we all know what it is. In the past 2 years, the progress that was made in that field, and we need to look a year and 2 years in the future. And this is where the part of thinking really outside the box come in. How is that going to look like? Right now, I can pay $29.95 and I don't know programming. I'm really bad at it. Really, really bad at it. I can pay $29.95. There's platforms that I can do it. I can type what I want in an application, a web application, an iOS application, an Android application, type whatever I want, and the platform creates me that application. Yes, I'm going to need to do some modifications to it. It's not as easy and simple as it looks like, but I don't need to go to school now for 2 years, or for 4 years, or to go to a boot camp for programming for 6 months and pay $12,000 for it. I can pay $29.99 and have it do it for me. And I can make an app. It can, um, OpenAI came out with their video module, Sora, it's called. I can
Mm-hmm.
right now type in what I want and create a movie. Again, not as easy as it sounds, but I don't need to go to movie school for 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
I don't need to go to YouTube to learn how to film and have an editing software and spend hours and hours and hours and hours and hours of editing. You have a podcast, so you know. Editing
Oh yeah, it's timely.
editing takes a
Yeah.
lot of time. I don't need to know where the lights need to be. I don't need to know anything. I need to know how to just describe what I want and put it in the Sora generator, and it creates a movie. Well, not a movie. It creates clips for me, which I can edit later and become maybe a 5 minute clip, a 10 minute clip. I don't need to know anything except what I want. And even that, again, ChatGPT or OpenAI, they have their ChatGPT, right? They have ChatGPT, and it's just getting better and better and better and better in every iteration. In 2 years, who knows where it's going to be? I don't even know. I don't even need to know what I want to create a movie. I just put in, can you please describe to me? Yes, I say please to a machine. I don't know why.
Yeah, I do
Can you
too.
can you please describe to me a scene of a movie and this, and that? And it creates it. You copy and paste it to Sora, and then you have your own movie. Now, in our world, cybersecurity, for instance, I can tell it. And then again, nothing is perfect, but I don't need to spend $20,000 on it, and I don't need to spend 6 months on it. Create me this policy. This policy. I am a doctor's office. I need to have a policy for ABC. It creates the policy. It's 80%, it's 75% correct. I need to take it and edit it a little bit and maybe do a mishmash with it. But I just saved 20 grand. I saved 20 grand and I saved 30, $40,000 for a VCSO service to consult to me what needs to be done. That's for my field. And the thing is, while people are looking for jobs, and I've seen people online looking for jobs for longer periods of time, when they're looking for jobs, they are letting this innovation slip by them, and they're applying for jobs that might no longer exist when they get to the job market. And the reason is, again, some companies started to lay people off because they don't need senior programmers anymore. They don't need to pay $300,000 for an iOS programmer because they can pay somebody 60, 70, $80,000, and then someone can type in the whatever they need and create a code. Oh, those big companies might even have their own generators, and then they can just put it in and creates a code. So if you don't notice, if you miss it, you're going to miss the boat. You're applying for jobs that might not no longer be in existence in a year or two from now. So even if you get a role, there's very good chance that it might not exist in a year or two. So you always have to keep your eye on what's happening, and you have to learn how to use these tools. And these tools are coming,
Mm-hmm.
right? Every couple of
They're here.
they're
They're
coming.
coming. Yeah.
Every couple of months there's an update. Every couple of months there is hundreds, sorry, I think there's thousands, tens of thousands of different A modules out there that can do different things for different industries. It's insane what it is, but you have to make sure that you have to concentrate on something. If you're a filmmaker, you have to know how to work with these tools, because if you don't, a company's gonna find someone that knows how to use these tools. Nothing bad with knowing the old tools, but learn the new ones as well. Because right now, what works is machine learning, AI, quantum computing, right? The next big thing, quantum computing. All of these catches an eye on your resume, your LinkedIn profile. Did you learn it? And of course, all colleges right now and all have these kind of courses for AI and machine learning, or how to use even a specific tool. All you need to say, hey, yes, I know how to use these tools. I know what to do with them. Think about it. You don't see locomotive engines anymore that are powered by fire and coal, right? And wood, because diesel engines came in. This is what's going to happen. Some of these things are going to disappear, and if we're not gonna catch up, if we're not gonna go and say, okay, we need to learn how to use these tools and maintain these tools and work with these tools, we're gonna stay behind. So
Yeah.
that's my spiel for that.
Yeah, no, and I think there's a lot to unpack there, and we're going to go a little deeper into a lot of those topics in our conversation today. And just a couple of things that I took away from that. I mean, first is it's like, wow, this innovation opens the doors of opportunity up to so many different people, because like you were saying, these skills that used to take hours of time and tens of thousands or even hundreds of thousands of dollars to learn or to create, it can now be done instantaneously. So the opportunity for innovation for somebody like me that doesn't have coding experience, I could create an app and I wouldn't have to pay $100,000 or hundreds of thousands of dollars for a company to create that app for me. There will be AI solutions that will help me take what's living inside of my head and innovate with
Yep,
that. And so for
exactly.
people listening, it's like, dang, that's freaking exciting. Like, get on the train, learn about how you can use, some of these AI tools and some of these innovations that are currently here and are also in the pipeline and coming. Learn how you can use those to your advantage. And, the second, just kind of thing that came to my head when you were chatting, Ron, was just this concept and this idea of how much work has changed in the last year. And that's just the last year. Who knows 5 years down the road, 10 years down the road, how that's going to continuously evolve. To me, it's just fascinating to think about and, scary. I mean, really, because we really don't know for sure what the future of this innovation means for a lot of different positions. So I guess, my follow-up question to that would be, how do you think that these technical innovations have impacted the way that we work over the last year, and how do you think they'll continually, impact it in the coming years?
Well, it's an excellent question, and all we need to see is all these big companies laying off people. They don't know, they don't say exactly why. They just say, "Hey, we decided to lay off." These companies are not losing money. They have treasure troves of cash in their in their in their
Mm-hmm.
bank accounts, but they are reducing headcount. And one of the reasons they're reducing headcount is that this kind of innovation caused them to be able to do the work of some of these individuals in a very efficient way. Where it's going to take us, I think if you don't, like I said, if you don't know how to work with these tools, you're probably going to get left behind. So left behind from a company also, but also, so like you said, from your from personal branding, for instance, you don't need, it's not like, it's not like in the good old days, right? I'm 20 years, so I can say confidently that I had an interview 18 years ago. I interviewed with the CEO with two people, operations manager, CEO of the company. The next day I got a phone call, you're hired. 99.99999%, that's not happening today. I also had interviews, well, recently, that were seven interviews, different people. Two of them were interviews with more than one person, and then at the end of it being ghosted.
Mm.
So this is
Mm-hmm.
the more what's going on today. So this is the problem. That if you're not going to catch up, if you're not going to hone your skill in these tools, if you're not going to work on your personal branding, because just having a good resume today is not enough. You need to have extra and extra and extra and extra. People that hire you are hiring you are looking for that extra, whatever extra you have, right? And they're packing these resumes with 50 requirements. Some of them are not applied to you, the role that they're writing on the top. For instance, I've seen a job ad for CISOs, and the
Mm-hmm.
CISO needed to have an accounting degree, right? Chief Information Security
Mm-hmm.
Officer with an accounting degree. How did that match together? I don't know. There's probably 5 in the country,
Yeah.
maybe.
Sure.
I'm being optimistic about that, right?
Yeah.
So you have to have that something extra on your resume. You have to know the keywords that they're looking for. And today, what they're looking for, do you know how to use all these great tools? Do you know how to work with them? Have you worked with them? Do you have any experience working with them? Because recruiters in companies, they can write, I need 6 years experience in ChatGPT. ChatGPT came out, I think, 3 years ago, right? And we've seen this before. We've all seen those kind of job ads before. Somebody writes it down, they copy and paste, and they replace the name of the application or platform with someone else without thinking about what the actual application is. So yeah, we're also book personal branding with those tools, and always keep your eye on what's new and what's coming out. Right? Keep your eye on what's new, what's coming out. So a year from now, you'll still be relevant with your skill set as you are today, because things are moving in very fast speeds,
Insanely
in the speed of
fast.
light,
Yeah.
right? 2 years ago, we didn't even know what ChatGPT is. Now everybody's using it. Who knows what we're gonna do a year from now when ChatGPT version 5 comes out,
Mm-hmm.
right? When Sora version 2.0 comes out, the video module. And there's a bunch of other um, machine learning and
Yeah.
AI out there, not just ChatGPT. That's just the one that's really well known.
Yeah.
So what are you gonna do? How you gonna adjust? If you're an artist, if you're a writer, if you're an artist, people are
Yeah.
saying you can write a book today with ChatGPT. That's not really correct, right? It's not really there, but who knows? Maybe in 2 years it will be there.
Yeah. Yeah. So for our listeners, I guess, that are sitting here thinking, well, oh shit, I don't want to get left behind. What can we be doing right now to make sure that we're not being left behind? How can we continually hone our skills in AI and how it's evolving?
Being jack of all trades is great, but when you go to a job interview, they want you to be specialized in a certain thing. Pick your lane. This is the best way to explain it. Pick your lane if you're a writer, if you're a movie maker, if you're a cybersecurity professional, if you're a programmer. Choose the tools that you see in your market and learn them in depth. Uh, they're not expensive, and most of them offer some free usage. So learn them in depth. Keep your eye on updates. There's nothing wrong if you're doing, movies. There's nothing wrong about learning how to write as well, right? On the learning. But if you're picking your lane, concentrate on one thing and know some of the other things so you'll be able to easily integrate them together. Pick your lane, decide what tools you want, and be really good in those tools.
Yeah.
That's the best advice.
No, I love that. Yeah, I mean, make yourself invaluable in just a handful of tools. Don't try to learn just a little bit about everything that's out there because that will essentially be, useless if you can make yourself invaluable with a handful of tools that are, really impactful within your specific niche, within your specific industry, then that's going to help you get a leg up on, some of these other candidates. And, kind of like what you were saying, Ron, when hiring managers are reviewing resumes now, they're looking for skills, specific skills that kind of sets them apart from every other candidate that they have. And so if you're taking the time to really build some of this knowledge in some of these different AI tools, that it can be so
Yep.
impactful because it can
Yep.
change the game for the company that you'll be working with in terms of efficiency and innovation and all of these things that we've been talking about. Yeah, so I think it's just fascinating. And I want to shift the conversation just a little bit to, think about kind of how AI is replacing some different professions, like we mentioned earlier, with writers and artists and programmers and, some of these different areas, where AI is just kind of taken over. Look, I'm a writer. Like we were talking about, before I hit the record button, I write resumes for a living. My husband is an artist, and we've felt the pain of AI and innovation in various ways, in our careers. So I guess my question for you is AI actually replacing these jobs? And if so, in what ways?
So I know I'm gonna probably take slack from my comment right now, but yes, AI is replacing jobs. Like there's no way around it anymore. Like about a year ago, we said, it's not there yet. We don't know. It doesn't seem like it. But a year after, we're smarter. We've seen how things progress. And yes, and I can tell you that in my industry, companies are looking for an eye to specifically augment junior roles, things that are very constructed so a machine can identify A, B, C, D and take these actions that you don't need a human for. And humans are expensive. Humans are expensive to
Yeah,
hire.
for sure.
And these companies are looking for ways to always, right, cut costs. A business is a business is a business. It's going to put profit first because they're a business, unless they're a nonprofit, going to come first. And that's just the reality, right? This is what's happening. There's no way of changing it. We're in a capitalistic society. Profit comes first. If it's cutting costs in not giving your employees coffee, or it's cutting costs by reducing headcount and replacing it with some AI modules. So yeah, AI is taking away job, and it's gonna continue like that. And the reason is it's just going to get better and better and better and better and better. So if today AI can't do certain things, nothing's to say that it can't do it 6 months from now, right? Because the lightning speed progression, like from version, let's just say one, from the release version 3.0 of ChatGPT, and now it's like 4.5010, whatever they call it. The progression is insane. It's
It is.
completely insane. So what's going to happen 6 months from now? What's going to happen a year from now?
Yeah.
So it's replacing jobs, and the best way around it, I believe, is to learn how to use these tools. For instance, if you're a writer, learn how to integrate those tools into your work, right? Because if not, somebody's going to just do it, and you're going to get left behind. Just like learning these new tools keeps you ahead of the game. And another thing, people don't realize, we're in the industry, so we are a lot on LinkedIn, and that's how we met. It seems like everybody is using AI, but I think a recent survey discovered that not everybody is using AI. Like I think it's only like 20% are using those kind of tools. because not everybody's in tune to do these kind of things. They don't want to. They don't want to spend the time. They don't want to
Yeah,
spend because it's time also, right? You don't just
for
enter
sure.
something and something great comes out. You have to go in, do a couple of iterations, and people don't want to do it. They don't have the time, and which is fine. But that's where you come in, for instance. You have the time. You have the knowledge as a
Yeah.
writer to use these tools to augment some of your work and make it more efficient. Or the same thing with, video producers or tech people. Learn to use the tools, make yourself more efficient so you wouldn't get left behind.
Yeah. Yeah, and I've noticed, specifically with writing, since I do spend a lot of my day writing, right now, yes, I totally agree. ChatGPT has, there we go. It said it wasn't recording. Now it's recording. Is
Oh,
it okay on your end?
you seem stuck.
I seem stuck.
Yeah,
I do seem stuck. Okay. Let me back out and come back in. There we go.
here we go.
Okay. I think it shows that it's still recording.
Yeah, I think it recorded my side. Did you have it setting for recording on the local systems before, or just recording direct to cloud?
Recording right into the system. Yeah.
So it
From
will upload
desktop.
eventually, and then you can
Yeah.
edit it out.
Yeah, for sure. Okay. I just hired an editor because it was taking up
It's
so much
so
time.
long. It takes so long.
Uh-huh. And Riverside it's good, but it's limited in what you can do with editing.
Oh no, it's not a good editor at all.
Yeah. They've
You
made
have to
improvements, but
yeah,
it's
you have to
very
download
basic.
both videos, and then you have to cut, and then you have
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
yeah, been there, done that.
Yeah. Okay. So we'll figure it out. But yeah. So, what I guess what I was saying was, with writing, because, that's a lot of what my experience is with AI. I spend a lot of my day writing, and I have noticed over the last year that, ChatGPT has made major improvements. But, what I've also noticed is if you don't give it basically, exactly what you want it to spit out, it's going to give you something really generic in terms
Yeah,
of what it writes. I mean,
yeah,
even when, like, for example, if I'm trying to write like a post for LinkedIn, if I give it just, something generic, like, give me 5 suggestions on how to improve your resume, it's going to give you something that, everybody knows. It's not going to give you any of those, million mile
ideas.
outside of the box,
Yeah,
type of ideas. It's going to be pretty generic.
and you can't tell it to think outside the box
Yeah,
because it
oh, you
doesn't
can.
understand the
Yeah,
meaning.
I've absolutely. Yeah, I played around with that. But what I've also noticed, still is, you can very much tell when somebody is writing using ChatGPT. And like you said, maybe that will change, maybe that will evolve and get better over time, and I'm sure that it will. But, like your point, Ron, I think that if we, as writers and as artists and as developers are staying up with, okay, what are the best ways, the best tools, the best prompts that we can give this to make the product the very best product that it can be based on those things, then, moving forward, our jobs will not be obsolete because we've taken the time to research and to really test out different things that work in our specific areas and that work the best. So we will have the upper hand in really knowing how to use those AI tools to our advantage because
Exactly. It's exactly it, right? You're 100% right because people, just someone off the street wanted to
Mhm,
do their resume and said, "Hey, write me a resume for XYZ." It's gonna come out not good at all,
exactly.
right? It's
Yeah.
gonna come out not good. But that person doesn't have the time to sit down for like for weeks, because it takes a long time to generate the right prompt for the right things.
Hmm.
Target audience, the size of the audience, what they need to concentrate on, what they don't need to concentrate on, where to, uh, put keywords in, where not to put keywords in. People just don't have that kind of time, and they don't want to. They want to pay somebody to do it, and uh, this is where this shifts, right? Instead of paying somebody that does 100% manual work, they will still pay, but that person is going to use something extra. So instead of being able to handle 10 resumes per week, they'll be able to handle 50 resumes per week now. Because, you have your prompts library and you say, okay, this person needs this kind of resume. I'm going to copy and paste and add the person name and da da da, and then I'm going to give a template. You can give a template to the ChatGPT, by the way, and it can just export a Word document with the
Hmm.
template and the text you put in. Easy peasy, right? So instead of spending 3 hours on a resume, you spent 30 minutes on a resume. And instead of doing, like I said, 10 in a week, you can do 15 a week. So even if you're lowering your price, and this is everybody, right, needs to understand this. Even if you're not doing something, you can augment that by doing more of that something, right? Even you can be more efficient if you're working in a company. You can do, okay, so this is the deadline, no problem. I can use these tools to meet this deadline.
Yeah,
People that know how to use these new tools are not going to be obsolete because somebody still needs to do
totally.
prompt engineering.
Yeah.
Somebody still needs to understand how the mechanism behind this works. And these are the people that will have the next generation of jobs.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. And and I think about, even I'm going back to posts on LinkedIn and also comments on LinkedIn because to me it's like I can tell almost immediately when somebody uses ChatGPT or AI to write a post on LinkedIn or to respond to somebody else's post on LinkedIn. It's very, very clear, when people are doing that. And, I'll be completely honest, when I first started, posting on LinkedIn, I messed around with just using ChatGPT to create these posts for me and they didn't get any traction at all because there was no human experience in those in those types of prompts. So from a writer's perspective, it's like ChatGPT is good. It can give you a great foundation to work with, but you still need to have the skills to be able to bring in the human element, the storytelling piece in a way that's going to actually connect with your audience. Otherwise it's just kind of boring, in
If
my
you're doing
opinion.
if you're doing the right prompt engineering, you can get 60% there.
Yeah,
But somebody needs to put
100%.
that 40%.
Yeah, exactly.
So into the text, somebody needs to put in. It's gonna
Yeah.
get you close, but not at the end.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'd be curious to ask you this as well, kind of shifting to, thinking about artists and how this will affect, kind of the art world. And I know, right when ChatGPT and, all of this AI stuff came out, my husband, who I had mentioned earlier as an artist, was not excited about it at all because, his fear, I think, was that, you have all of these artists who have dedicated their entire lives to creating this artwork, to really putting art to life on paper. And now with AI, essentially what it's doing is what he thought, I should say, and what it felt like maybe is stealing their artwork and just creating different art based on what they created. And so he kind of felt like, well, that's, kind of copywriting, right? That's plagiarism.
Yes. Yes and no.
Yeah. No, talk
Well,
to me about that.
yes and no. So
Yeah.
there's a lot of pushback now with artists and writers because every language module for machine learning needs to be trained on something, right? And ChatGPT was trained on a lot of things. And DALL-E or Sora, which is their new, and all the other ones as well have been trained on multiple things. And people are not trying to sue these companies for, like you said, the copyright infringement. You taught your machine learning or AI modules on my stuff, so you're infringing on my rights. But the question I always want to ask this is if I went to a museum and Van Gogh inspired me to be an artist and I love his art and I start painting like he did, but not exactly not the same art that he did, but the same inspiration, the his same style. Am I copywriting Van Gogh or am I just he inspired me to do something? Because I didn't steal his art. I'm creating something new with the inspiration that his art gave me. And I'm not a legal scholar. I have no clue what I'm talking about when I'm
Sure.
talking about this, but companies suing ChatGPT or all these other companies or OpenAI for having them trained their modules on this. So training is like an inspiration. Training equals inspiration. It's not gonna do anything copyrighted. So if you try to say, I want a photo of Tom Cruise, it's not going to let you because Tom Cruise is, they don't want to get into a fight with Tom Cruise or any other celebrity or any different artist. So if you want to generate like a picture of a celebrity or write exactly as an author and copy and paste it and make it as your own, that's not going to work. But it's inspiring to the machine learning to create something new from everything that they learn. So how is that going to work out in the court? I have no clue. But there are very successful artists right now that what they do, it's interesting. What they do is they do their art, they take a digital photo of their art and they put it into the machine learning, they upload the machine learning and say, do this with this art and it creates something new. And then they go into Photoshop and do some things with it and then they have this new art that came out with a marriage of, what you did on a canvas or on paper, and what the AI did, and some digital manipulation on your own side.
Mm-hmm.
So again, you can marry those, and the funny thing is, it all is a full circle, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right now, people love those 1967 Mercedes, not Mercedes, but the muscle cars, right?
Yeah.
Because they miss the big engine, they miss that noise, they miss the gear shift, that the manual gear shift that doesn't go into to the gear unless you really press on the clutch. They miss it,
Mm-hmm.
right? Everybody was so enthusiastic about the new age of cars, right? Automatic, electric, that's great. But enthusiasm dies down, and people will come back to, you know what? I'm tired of this AI generated stuff, right? Everybody generates AI. I'm gonna go back to the real hand drawn things that have soul in them. It's a matter of time for it to come back. It just needs to complete the circle.
Yeah. I completely agree with you there. And and I think it's interesting with some of these, the AI that affects art. And I've seen some where you can basically put in a description of what you want, and then it'll generate, several different versions of that description of what you're looking for. And then for an artist, that can really, when you look at it from an efficiency perspective, that can really boost their efficiency in that they can then either take that concept or that idea, or they can actually take what was generated and, like you said, put it into some kind of a system, whether it's Photoshop or something else entirely, to then sculpt that and modify it and create something that makes it their own, where it's like the foundation of their idea is there now, so it's saving them a lot of time, but then they can still put their own twist on it, their own art
Yep.
style on, into
Yep.
it. So I think that there's, that's definitely something that, I'll be watching, and of course my husband will also be watching, very closely as, some of these things evolve, in the art world.
Yeah. And you can always plug these tools, because it's a tool. AI is a tool. It's like a hammer. It's like a hammer. It's like a paintbrush. You can plug it into your work process and see what you can do with it.
For sure.
Because right now, it's what's in.
Yeah.
It's what's in. And if you want to sell your art, if you want to go forward with your art, you have to go where the audience wants it, right? You can't go against the audience, because nobody's gonna pick it up.
I mean, you can, but
You
you may not get very
can,
far.
you can, and you might be, your art might be valuable in 40 years, which is great, but now you need to put food on the table, right? Somehow. You can do that. It's all about adjusting, and people don't like change, right? People hate change. Like, I've done this for 20 years. I don't want to do anything different. Embrace this change, because it's not, just put it as a part of the process that you're doing. It doesn't matter what you do, you need to put it as a process. Learn it, put it as a process, use it to enhance your capabilities. Hey, I can create a movie for you in 2 hours, 10-minute movie. What do you want? I mean, instead of pay me $500, instead of paying me $50,000, and it takes me a month to do it. You can do 10 movies in a month, make five grand. I'm sorry, five movies in a week, make 5 grand a week.
Yeah.
Adapt,
Sure.
change, learn, learn the tool, learn the
Mm-hmm.
new tools.
Yep. Yeah, and it's always been that way. We've always had to, there have always been new tools. Have always been ways that we need to learn and adapt and change with the times. But I think, kind of the point of our conversation today is like the times are changing at 100 times, 1,000 speed, faster than they have, like if I compare it from 10 years ago to even, 1 year ago today versus 5 years into the future, it's like times are just changing so quickly, in the world of innovation and what's possible. And I also wanted to ask you too, because I know you'd mentioned, and this is more in your space, in the technical space. And, you mentioned AI taking over developers, and especially, some of the entry level development processes. And do you think that it'll ever get to the point where it could take over your role? Somebody who's a little bit more advanced, right, in that space? Or do you think it'll always be like, AI will be taking over some of the more of the entry level development spaces?
It will start from the entry level, and probably go up from there. But at the end of the day, you can't, AI can't sit on the board of directors.
Yeah, sure.
AI can't sit in executive meetings. Somebody has to, there's a limit where how high it can go, right? AI can't, sit in the director's position, overseeing several aspects. But the day-to-day grind, the day-to-day, individual contributor, that's the things that are going to probably be augmented somehow by AI. Even personal assistants, just as an example, you have an AI today that can set your schedule. That's it. It's
Hmm.
all they do.
Yep.
Set your schedule. I haven't used it. I've seen it exists, but it's something that's out there. And AI is coming up now for everything. Sending emails, marketing, for instance. It decides how much money to put in your adware or meta accounts, what kind of ads to put to what audiences. You used to have like a team of 3, 4 people to decide that. Today there's an AI for that. You're just feeding what you want, connect it to your different different accounts, and they decide. You can create your videos on Sora, you can create your images on DALL-E, the Stable Diffusion, and all the other ones, and it's all AI. It's all AI
Mm.
generated.
Yeah.
It's all AI generated, and then AI pushed.
Yeah, and we talked about just the frustration of, people that we see searching for jobs in the job market today. Because, like you mentioned earlier in our conversation, employers are laying off people by, the thousands. And sometimes it's a budgeting thing, but like you said, many times it isn't. Many times it's an efficiency thing. It's because of, where innovation's going. It's where AI is at and where AI is going. And for me, over the course of the last year especially, I've worked with so many job seekers who are, they're frustrated, they're disheartened, they're burnt out, and I mean, they're just over it. So, for our listeners who are kind of at their wits' end in their job search, what can they do today to actually get a job in this market?
That's a tough question because the market is weird. The market is very strangely constructed today. I've never seen the market in this way before. I was doing the 2008, for instance, when the financial crisis hit. Everybody was getting laid off, and it was a well-known fact because companies ran out of money. Now they don't run out of money, and they're just doing this, like you said, for efficiency purposes. Companies are afraid to make the wrong move by hiring someone. That's why there's 7 interviews. There's 7 interviews for junior roles too. Like I've read like posts on LinkedIn. I had
Crazy.
6 interviews for junior role and then I got ghosted. Do you actually need 6 interviews for a junior role? Probably not. And then they don't find anybody, and this is the most interesting part, right? The companies don't find anybody, and then they repost it like a month later, hoping to find someone that specifically fits their needs. So it's an interesting question of what you can do. I think the best thing you can do, and it's the old kind of advice still works in these kind of situation. I've seen multiple people on LinkedIn saying, I've been trying to look for a job for 6 months. I can't find any. I looked at their profile on LinkedIn. So if they're looking for a job on LinkedIn and they're posting it on LinkedIn and somebody goes look at their profile, for instance, um, and it's not there. It's not a job seeker profile, right? Everything like there is no photo, there's no description of where you work, there's no description about your duties or your achievements of where you work, just like a resume. Your tagline doesn't exist. You have 300 friends, and that's it, right? So if you're going to LinkedIn and saying, I don't have a job, I need a job, and I want to employ you, and I go to your profile, and this is what's there. So maybe that's where the problem is. I don't see their resumes unless they post it, uh, trying to look for an advice. But most of the times, it's the lack of preparation for being a job seeker. It's no longer, and I like to say to people, you're sending your resume, you're putting it on a pile of 500 resumes on a virtual desk in a recruiter's office somewhere.
Hmm.
Why would they choose you out of those 500 people? Unless you have that mindset, how are you going to put yourself on the top? Because again, I was never a recruiter, but I was a hiring manager. I know that you get 500 resumes, between 300 and 500 resumes, and I know that 90% of these resumes are not relevant at all
100%.
to the job. It's people just trying to send in resumes, and then all those got tossed aside. And most of the resumes are the same thing, saying, "This is I directed, I implemented, I devised, I managed." And at a certain point, your eyes become glossy. And
Yeah.
by the way, for your listeners' benefit, any of the companies I worked with in the past 20 years, did not use the ATS AI module that automatically filters things out.
Mm.
They did not use them.
Yep.
Most small to medium-sized companies, which is most companies out there, don't use that because it takes time and money to set this up the correct way. And companies just don't want to do it. If you're applying for like Facebook or Google, yeah, sure, they have those enabled all day long. But small, medium-sized companies that I work with and most of the people I talk to do not have that place. So if you're thinking my keywords are not going to pop up on the ATSs, well, that's true because there is no ATS. The ATS is just pretty much just a big file cabinet of all the resumes, and the hiring manager, the recruiter, just goes there and says, move to the next stage, move to the next stage, decline, deny, 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 move to the next stage, and then they go on to that other bucket of the next stage and see if there's anybody worth looking at. That's as a side note. But yeah, work on the resume. Make sure it's a good resume. Make sure, and people don't like to do it, but make sure that when I, as a hiring manager, view a resume, and it's just me, and it's a couple of more people I know, but I want to, it's not I want to think, is probably a lot of hiring managers do it. I scan the first page of the resume. If I don't find the keywords of the role I'm looking for, the resume goes onto the side. I don't need the job roles to be on the second page or the third page. Please don't have a third page. On the second page, on the bottom. Now, I scan the first page
Mm-hmm.
for the keywords I'm looking for, not AI or any machine. And if it's not there, it gets tossed aside. Same thing with recruiters. They look at the first page. They scan to see if there's any of those keywords they're looking for. And if it's not, they put it aside. And this is one of the major mistakes. And if you have some AI experience or anything that is innovative, put that in your resume. Put it in a resume because that's the thing that will catch the eye of a recruiter or hiring manager. Oh, this person knows how to use these kind of tools. That's great. We might need to use him or
Mm-hmm.
her or whatever. We might need to use them. Put it aside. Same thing with your LinkedIn profile, right? If you're saying I don't have a job on LinkedIn and your LinkedIn profile is not there as a job seeker, make sure it's there. If you're going to write, hey, I'm looking for a job, I haven't had a job for 6 months, hiring managers, if somebody sees your post and click on it, they need to see why you are worthy of having that job or any
Mm-hmm.
job and just apply. Just apply as much as you can, not to jobs that you're not qualified for,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like so my point of view was always if you're qualified 70% to the required fields in your job description, apply. But if you were a hostess in a shabu restaurant and then you want to be a SOC analyst because you did a month in Best Buy, I'm sorry, that's not what we asked for, right? And a lot of people are complaining because I applied for 500 jobs this year. Okay, three-quarters of them you probably won't qualify for. And this is just the market we're in, right? There's a lot of perpetual job ads out there.
Mm-hmm.
And you can see it because they keep reposting the same ads and they have like 600, 700, or 1,000 applications. Those are the ones to avoid,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
Like click on the job, read the job description, click on the company, see who the company is, research, look at Glassdoor. Is it worth applying to? Take whatever Glassdoor says, weigh it against, certain things. For instance, I know of companies that offered their employees $5 gift cards in Starbucks if they write a good review on the company.
Mm-hmm.
It's being done.
I've heard that. Yeah.
But there also could be some an employee that was very bitter and then they left a bad reviews. So if there's like 50 good reviews and one bad review, so take that into weight, right? Have an analytical brain when you weigh these things up.
Yeah.
And always look
Absolutely.
for, there's always the hidden part in a job description. And it's hidden for a reason. And the reason it's hidden is because it didn't translate between the hiring manager and the recruiter. The hiring manager had a thing in their head that the recruiter doesn't know, but it's out there, it's in the text. You can see where they're going with that job. So make sure that uh, make sure that you position yourself in the best way. Now, I used to say to people, hey, reach out to people on LinkedIn. I don't say that anymore. Reach out to the hiring
Really.
manager, the
Yeah.
recruiter on LinkedIn. I don't say that anymore.
Why don't you
And
say
the
that
reason
anymore? Yeah.
I don't say it anymore because it's becoming a bother, right? I worked in a company and the company went on to hiring a couple of people. They posted it up and it's not the hiring manager. They just found me as related to be the company. I started getting mass email, LinkedIn messages about that role. And I'm like, I'm sorry, it's not me, right? I'm not the hiring manager, and I can only imagine the hiring manager getting a ton of these messages. It's disturbing. It takes out of your day. I don't say that anymore, so don't do it. The best way to do it, I believe, is position yourself in the best way possible um, with your resume and your LinkedIn page, because that's where they're going to see it. Now, does your resume have to have everything? That's a matter, uh, for you to decide and for Mary to help you out on that one. Because I have these arguments with people all the time. I have 21 years experience. How are we going to fit 21 years experience into 2 pages?
It's hard.
And I'm like, it's hard,
Yeah.
A. B, think about me as the hiring managers. I don't want to read books,
Mm-hmm.
right? I get 300 resumes. I don't need 10 pages each resume. That's for 3,000 books to read. I have a day job. Like I have a different job than being a hiring manager.
Exactly.
And the recruiters, if they're reviewing it, they probably have more roles that they're trying to recruit for. So they don't need 10,000 pages of resume to read in a day or in a week.
Yeah, I mean, I think the bottom line is, and I think, you heard it here first, from Ron, is, when you're writing your resume, you don't need to write every single thing that you've done throughout your 28-year career. What you want to do is write a resume that tells a story that positions you for that specific position, because that's what Ron's looking for. That's what the hiring manager's looking for. That's what the recruiter is looking for. They want to know, how are you going to step into this specific position and make an impact? So, that's the key with a good, a nice, well-written resume, is that it's really highly tailored and it really quickly shows the reader why you're a good fit for that specific position. And you just made a perfect case for why it is so important to have a tailored resume. And I completely agree with you. And I've had conversations with hundreds, if not thousands at this point, of both recruiters and hiring managers, that LinkedIn and making sure that you have started, at least updated your LinkedIn, if not started to create a personal brand on LinkedIn. Because when Ron has your resume in hand, the first thing he'll do is look at your LinkedIn profile. And so, that messaging, but the storytelling that's on your resume, it needs to match. It needs to be cohesive and succinct and really, really easy for him to not spend lots of time looking at it and trying to find something specific. You want to show that, show him exactly what he's looking for almost immediately. So I think that, that's powerful advice. So Ron, I guess, if you could have, 2 takeaways from our conversation today, what would that be?
2 takeaways from the conversation would be: the world's moving really fast. You need to catch up with it, or you're going to be left behind just holding your resume in hand, right? And that's it, because things are changing and you have to think about the futures. If you're gearing up for a job and the job you're looking for might not be around in the next year, take a look at that. Decide if this is something you actually want, this role you want to apply for. I've read for instance, on LinkedIn, of someone that got laid off 3 times in a year.
Jeez.
3 times in a year from the same kind of role that she was holding. So the world's moving fast. Adjust with it, learn it, and make sure you have everything that you have done in what you've learned. I also expressed probably on your LinkedIn and on your resume somewhere, so that would catch the eye of the people that needs to see it and see that you're catching up with this world and not just, hey, I'm just doing this old school way, because that's not what they're looking for today.
Awesome. Well, where can we find you on social media?
Social media, Ron Sharon. I'm on LinkedIn all day, most days.
Yep. Awesome, Ron. Thanks so much for coming on today.
Thank you for having me, Mary. Appreciate it.
Thanks for listening. I will be releasing episodes every Monday, so be sure to subscribe on the platform that you are watching this, give it a 5-star review, and we'll see you next time.